country in the world today which so badly needs peace is the new state of Israel, located as it is so near the troubled crossroads of the world. Yet if you visit its Arab neighbors, you'll be told that Israel does not want peace, that it's been criticized and censored by the United Nations, that its people are warlike and belligerent. And it has some critics in the United States, including those in high official circles, who say that the we can lick our weight in wildcats tactics of the Israeli army has been upsetting the peace of the Near East. And to see just what is happening in this vital part of the world, I flew to Israel. It's amazing how quick you can get there in these days of airplane travel. After a flight of just a day and a half, I looked down on a modern city. Beautiful hotels, located not far from deserts. Here in Stable Care, a frontier farm cooperative of prefabbed barracks, only about 25 miles from the Egyptian border, lives the Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, a gnarled, determined, inspiring figure. Here I asked the Prime Minister to tell us the reasons that caused Israel to start its Operation Sinai Peninsula against Egypt.
It was the cumulative aggression of Gamal Abdel Nasser against Israel which compelled us finally to take energetic measures of self-defense. It was the blockade which was illegally organized against us in the Suez Canal in defiance of a clear decision by the Security Council in 1951. It was lately a renewed decision on October the 13th this year by the Security Council that no discrimination over to covert against any people should be made in the Suez Canal. The same week, the Egyptian ruler declared that Jewish ships will not be allowed in the Suez Canal in spite of the new decision of the Security Council. It was the increased activities of the Fidayun, which came not only this time from the Gaza Strip, but also from Sinai and Jordan and Syria. It was the military alliance which was concluded between Gamal Abdel Nasser and Jordan and Syria to attack Israel. All these compelled us, in order to survive, to destroy the nests and the bases of the Fidayun in the Gaza Strip in the desert of Sidon. And this we successfully achieved in a few days.
Mr. Prime Minister, that's a new word you're using, Fidayun. What is Fidayun?
It may be a new word for the world press, but it is a very old thing for us here in Israel. Fidayun means gangs of assassins organized, equipped, and trained by Egyptian authorities in the Gaza Strip, which were sent over daily to murder people, our people working in the land, crossing the roads, children going to their schools, mothers sitting in their homes.
When you see what happened as the Fidayun raided across the border of Israel, even under the eyes of the United Nations, you can understand all too well what the Prime Minister was talking about. It made no difference to the Fidayun whether their victims were Israeli men, women, or children. This started hostilities in the Sinai Peninsula. After the war was won, prisoners were gathered together and marched to prison camps, too surprised to know what had happened. They had not had time or else lacked the experience to use the expensive Russian arms traded for Egyptian cotton. Colonel Nasser, instead of improving the health and living standards of his people, had acquired Russian ammunition, tanks, artillery. The Egyptian insignia had been stamped on some, the sign of the pharaohs. But if you look carefully at the cartridges, the famed Russian T-34, on them was the insignia, the markings of the Red Army. There were enough weapons of war spread out on Sinai, not merely for the Egyptian army, but to have been a base for the Red Army itself. So it was understandable that when I talked to Ben Gurion about war, he was stern and tense. Despite this Russian-Egyptian buildup, he had been censored by the United Nations after he had moved to head off almost certain attack by overwhelming odds. But when I talked to him about the hopes and ideals of Israel, I found him a different man. Mr. Prime Minister, what would you say are the key policies of Israel?
Well, to tell it briefly, it is absorption of immigrants, developing the land, educating our people, fostering science, strengthening the defense army, and striving for peace with our neighbors.
Well, that was a wonderful summary, Mr. Prime Minister. I certainly hope you achieve it. Now tell me, in view of all this bitterness and trouble, do you still think it's possible for Israel to have peace with its Arab neighbors?
We strongly believe in the absolute necessity of peace throughout the world and in this region. In fact, our daily greeting is shalom, which means peace. We must have peace for moral reasons, also for practical reasons. We are here to construct, to build, to cultivate, to develop science, to educate people, to elevate people, and this needs peace. And we believe, while at present there are hostile relations, our neighbors are still hostile. We believe in the essential unity of human nature. We believe that what the Arab peoples need is not guns and fighter planes and bombers from Russia, but they need health, they need education, they need economic development. Unfortunately, the present Arab leaders, they care rather more for their personal ambitions and hatred, racial, religious hatred for other peoples than for the welfare of their own people. There is no democratic government in the Arab states. But I believe a time will come when the Arab peoples will raise new rulers who will really care for the development, health, education of their people. And then they will realize the importance and necessity of peace, as we do. And then I'm sure peace will come.
After talking to Prime Minister Ben Gurion, I wanted to talk to the people of Israel. So I went out to Hebrew University, just outside Jerusalem. And I talked to the students who will be the future leaders of their country. Excuse me. I'm trying to find out a few things about Israel. Could I ask you some questions?
With pleasure.
And I wonder if we could have some other of your friends down here for just a second. I am trying to find out a few things about Israel, and I'd like to ask you one question, if I may. And perhaps I might ask each one of you to give your name and what you're studying, and then tell me what Israel needs most. So, shall we begin here?
My name is Simone Meisels. I study humanities. It's history and French. I think what this country needs most is peace, because, you see, I have a baby, and I'd like him to have a sure future before him.
My name is Spira. I study English literature and philosophy. I think this country needs idealism. In other words, going back to the land and placing our country's interests above our own private ones.
I think I have to add that Israel needs badly some good doctors and research workers, especially in villages and settlements.
My name is Butrus. I'm studying history and philosophy at the Hebrew University. I think that Israel needs more to create good relations with the Arabs, because, you know, it is hard to live without having security, without living in quiet, in peace.
Excuse me, your name is not a Jewish name, is it?
No, it is not. It is a Christian name.
And you are a Christian?
Yes, I'm really a Christian, an Arab from Israel.
Do they have students of different religious faiths at Hebrew University?
Yes, sure. The university accepts each student who wants to study in it, who has science ability to come and study.
I went to Acre, the city which Napoleon tried to conquer but failed. And near the seawall, which he tried to storm, I got an example of how Jews and Arabs can live together. How was the fishing this morning?
كيف كان الصيد اليوم؟ كان معتدل مش كتير علشان القمر كبير.
The catch today was not very good because the moon is very big. So when the moon is big, we can't catch fish very much.
What kind of fishing? What kind of fish does you get most of the time?
كيف شو جنس السمكات اللي انت تصيدوا هسه بهذا الوقت؟
هسه في اللوكسات هاي في الغمق من نوع السردين وسكمبلي ومليطة.
Today we are catching the sardines, three kinds of sardines.
Does he make a pretty good living at it?
تقدر تعيش من صيد السمك؟
عايشين الحمد لله.
We are living, you see, thanks to God.
How many children does he have?
قديش ولاد عندك؟ كم ولاد عندك؟
11 ولد.
11 children he got.
And how many wives?
كم نسوان عندك؟
2.
2 wives he got.
Well, as a Mohammedan, I understand.
قال له فهموا إذا بتاكل سمك كتير بيجيك أولاد كتير. سمك بيجيب له أولاد.
He said that from eating fish, so he brought many children.
I see. Now, you two gentlemen, I understand, are partners.
Yes, we two partners.
And he's a Muslim?
He is a Muslim and I'm a Jew.
And how do you get along together?
We are getting along very good.
And your men, what religion are they?
Our men are mixed, 60% Arabs and 40% Jew.
And how do they get along together?
They are getting along very good.
I'd like to ask your partner here what he thinks is the most important thing that Israel needs.
المدينة تبعنا شو بدها تكون عليها اللي تكون منيحة كثير.
إذا بتصالحوا مع العرب بيكون منيحة كثير.
If there will be peace with the Arabs, he thinks they will be very good.
مش ممكن واحد يسكن ببيت ويكونوا جوار يعني مختلفوا جواره.
And he said that's impossible to live in one building when there's quarrel between one and the other.
And right on the border between Israel and Jordan, I talked to a young Israeli tractor driver. He was spreading fertilizer about 50 feet from the border, so close that the fertilizer was blowing across the border and enriching the farm of his Arab neighbor. This young fellow lived in a kibbutz, or a farm cooperative. Amos, how do you like this farm off? It's nice, I guess you need a pretty good tractor in this rocky soil.
Yes.
Tell me, Amos, how long have you been farming here in Israel?
I'm farming 3 years.
3 years. And where did you come from originally?
I was born in Haifa, in Israel.
You're a real native Israeli then?
Yes.
What would you say is the most important thing that Israel needs?
Israel needs today mostly is peace.
Could you explain that just a little bit, please?
I want to say this in Hebrew because it's too difficult for me.
Well, we'll see if we can get you an interpreter. Joe, would you come over just a minute, please? All right, Mr. Davis will interpret, please.
על ידי שלום נוכל לשחרר אנשים מביטחון לעבודה חקלאית, ובזה נוכל להגדיל את שטחי השלחים, עיבוד אינטנסיבי, במקום לעבוד רק בצורה אקסטנסיבית בבעל.
He would be able to put all his men into working in the fields instead of having his men do guard duties, and he would be able to make his farm more productive and do exactly what he wanted to with the land.
If he had peace.
If he had peace.
At Al Hashemer Hospital, I asked one of the officers wounded in the Sinai fighting what he thought Israel needed most?
Most important thing is peace. We need the peace to do the work we want to do here. We want to go out to the fields in security. We have to do our work in quiet. More than that, we have to be able to sleep at night in peace. And now it is most important that we have that peace and security, and we shall have to force it, even if we have to fight for it. Yes, I think the most important thing for us is peace.
A girl soldier back from Sinai had this to say.
I want to continue my studies. I want to learn languages and to be an interpreter, maybe. Well, then, I hope I shall be married once. And I want to raise a family, to have children, to bring them up, and I want them to live in peace. I don't want anybody to shoot at them.
Right through the heart of Jerusalem runs a no man's land, a strip of rubble and ruined buildings with a wall beyond, separating the Jewish city from the old. Nearby, I interviewed a refugee from Algiers who had a queer contraption on his balcony. Tell me, how does this ladder work?
This ladder works when there is trouble with the Arabs, so I can use it. I use this ladder when there is trouble. I cut up the rope and let it down so I can go inside my house. Between my house and the Arabs, there is no man's land. I have a main entrance. And if there is peace, I can use it.
In other words, you have a regular, very nice entrance, but the...
Yes, but I can't use it when there is some troubles with them. They shoot.
And what happens when they shoot? Have they ever hit you or any members of your family?
Yes, they have already shot. You can see the bullets outside my door.
And so when the Arabs shoot in the rear, where do they shoot from? Have they got a fort back there?
Yes, they have a post just behind this house.
How many men are there?
Well, sometimes they are 10, sometimes 12, and sometimes 4.
I see. Well, how do you feel about the Arabs personally?
Personally, I have nothing against them, but I don't like somebody shoot at me prevently.
You don't like anybody shooting at you?
No, of course not.
Well, I can understand that.
In the war, it's ordinary, but...
Well, do you like this house?
I like it, yes. I can't find a house better than this one.
If there is peace, so my house will be the best house in the country.
And by peace, I mean no more shooting. So I could use the main entrance to my house. And then we will fix up all the many houses in Jerusalem which are broken and damaged from this war.
This is Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, city of peace. Yet today there is no peace. Jerusalem is divided by barbed wire and battlements, by machine gun nests and artillery emplacements, hidden in walls as old as the capital of King David, where his son Solomon founded the first temple of Israel. Arab guards in the old city of Jerusalem pace these walls and peer down on the new city, capital of Israel. Jewish guards hidden in these walls are alert against the old. It's a city of mosques and minarets, of synagogues and churches, a city of love and passion and hatred, a city divided by a wall, an iron curtain, just as the rest of Israel is surrounded by a curtain of suspicion and hate. But I have interviewed people of all walks of life, doctors, farmers, scientists, fishermen, Muslims and Christians, Arabs and Jews. And I know their greatest desire is peace. I also know their greatest problem is to penetrate that curtain of suspicion and hate. A curtain just as rigid and just as dangerous as that which separates Russia from the United States. I would like to predict a new promised land for Israel, But as a realistic newspaper man, I must report that the road ahead is not easy. Israel's problems are not all her own making. As long as a new dictator stands across the Nile emulating the tactics of a late dictator in Germany, as long as a dictatorship in the Kremlin covets the oil of Arabia, the uranium of Africa, the route to India, just that long will there be trouble in the Near and Middle East. But I do predict that given help from friends, the indomitable spirit that has impelled the sons of Israel for 2,000 years will not fail, and they will win the battle to live on their own land in peace.